Wow. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. Give me a couple of seconds, or let's wait a couple of minutes. Perhaps we get started by 12:05. And so, can you confirm that you can hear me? Thank you very much. All right, it's 12:05. I'm just going to get started. Um, I reckon that I'm now sharing my screen. I had created a slide prior to this session. So in light of that, let's get started. Once again, thanks so much for joining. Um, my joining my session here. This is understand that it might be quite difficult to have joined given the festive period. However, I appreciate that we are still, I mean, in spite of the festivity, we're still keen on gaining more knowledge. And I hope this session would be impactful in that sense. I hope we get to learn as much about Microsoft technologies as we hope to have learned coming into the session. Normally I'd have turned my camera on. However, in a bid to optimize for the bandwidth, I won't be doing that as I'm sharing my screen already. So this session really is going to be a walkthrough in the sense that I came across the Microsoft Azure. I've known about the Microsoft Azure services for a while now, and a month or two ago, I came across the face identity recognition service, and I found it very interesting. I find the concept of cloud services in general primarily interesting. I felt like, okay, this is interesting. I enjoyed working with it. I enjoyed playing around with it. And I'm like, okay, what if I add an event and I got to share this knowledge with more people within my local community? And a couple of weeks later, although it's really late into the year, we have the session. Um, so the title of the session is the Building a Face Detection Model with the Azure AI Services. With time, I'll talk about this session. I really want it to be as in-depth as possible. And I want it to be, I think the word I'm looking for actually is comprehensive. So comprehensive in the sense that we start from machine learning as a concept. We talk a bit about the different subsections of the concept. We also talk about cloud services, how they operate, what makes them prevalent as they are today. Like we see a lot of talk about cloud services today. We talk about the other ones, and then we talk about Azure as well. And then we see them virtually everywhere. If you're a fan of Formula One, you see them a lot in the Grand Prix and the races. So I'll talk a bit about the cloud services. And I think since OpenAI released ChatGPT in November 2022, that span of right now, that's like a 25, 24 month span. I don't think there's been a point in history where artificial intelligence, I don't think there's ever been a 25-month span in history of the world where artificial intelligence has been as hot as it is right now. So we'll also talk about artificial intelligence in that sense. Um, yeah. My name is Salim Moilola. I'm a Gold Microsoft Resident Ambassador from Nigeria, once again. And you can find me on all social media platforms with this icon, this handle rather. Yeah. So what's the goal of the session, you're wondering? Can you confirm the use? My screen is not changing. Ah, okay, let me stop sharing and reshare again. Okay. Let me just reshare again. Give me a second, please. Okay, let's work with this. I reckon this will be much better now. But basically, my name is Salim Moilola. I'm a Gold Microsoft Lensden's ambassador. You can find me on all social media platform at Salim Moilola. Now, what is our goal for this session? Our big goal is to learn about the Azure AI services and how to use it. And we're going to have a use case at the end of this session. Now, what's the prerequisite of this session? What do we need to follow through? Or maybe not you. What do I need to follow through with the session? The first thing is Python. Um, I'm a Python junkie. Python is literally the only programming language I pride myself on being vast at. Visual Studio Code, obviously one of it's actually the code editor. GitHub and Git and GitHub, and finally we need an Azure subscription. You can go to these websites to get $300 for as a student to use Azure to play around with it. So let's start off with this little quote about what artificial intelligence is. It says here that artificial intelligence is computers doing things that would normally would think of as intelligent to humans. So what are those things that you think, oh, if someone did that, that's intelligence? And these things range from things that have to do with vision to things that have to do with natural language processing. For instance, if you had someone that could translate between English and perhaps 50 languages, you normally think, oh, that person must be really intelligent, being vast in that many languages. That's awesome. Now, artificial intelligence does that, or more accurately, computer does that. That means that computer, or that means what's acting that would of the computer is artificial intelligence. I think that's a good metric to judge what is and what isn't artificial intelligence. We have these common conversations on online platforms where they talk about um, what's really under the hood of what's under the hood of AI being if and else statements. If and else statements, if someone was able to perform if and else statements in reality, like an actual person, do we term what they're doing as intelligent? I mean, that's a question you have to ask yourself, right? However, being able to do things like what AI actually does, being able to come up with an essay just immediately from a prompt, that's really even a human being can do that. We'll say, oh, that person's really intelligent. And if a computer does that now, that's artificial intelligence, right? So I think that's a good way to think about AI. I think in 2023, that's the first 7, 8 months after ChatGPT launches. I keep using ChatGPT as my point of reference because, in my opinion, that's when AGI being artificial general intelligence really became mainstream. That's when we saw artificial intelligence as something that's being used by like I think that's the first point where it was being used by end-to-end consumers, as opposed to it's just being stacks of papers that are presented in different research communities, right? So as opposed to that, that was the first time when we had general artificial intelligence. And in light of that, I'm so sorry. I hope you all can see my screen. But in light of that, just give me a second, please. Okay, I'll keep going back and going forth up until you can see my screen. I really hope you guys can see my screen now. But basically, I'm on the slide that says artificial intelligence is computers doing things that we normally would think of as intelligence in humans. So yeah, that's about. Let me go to the next slide. Um, the same way as humans, just talking about how we think. So our brain is the quote unquote AI model. We have our sensory inputs and then we have our behaviors. So if perhaps someone came to me and told me something, I really can't come up with something off the top of my head now. My brain is the model where I process what I've been told, and then with respect to what you've told me, I then act. There's like it's a simple funnel, so to speak. Okay, the same way we talk about computers from our primary school definition of computers as electronic devices that can take in inputs, process it, and give out outputs. In a similar sense, that's what we have here, where you're able to give sensory input. The model works on that input, and then we have an output in terms of behavior. And then similarly, it could be data and answer. So you could input some data. You see, as opposed to just being a human being, we have this funny diagram. Now you have it's more squared and it's looking more like a server than it's looking like a human brain. So, but then at the core of it as well is a model. And then machine learning algorithms then have the ability to in AI, I mean in medicine rather, we have AI being able to help diagnose patients. I think a common ML example, very, very prevalent one, has to do with being able to predict for diabetes. That's a classification model. I'll talk more about classification model in a bit. Now, here we are. Machine learning models can mainly be classified into two. Yeah, we have the supervised learning models and the unsupervised learning models. And the textbook definition for supervised learning models will be models that tend to learn with output data. So they know where they are going to and they're trained on that. On the other end, unsupervised, like the name implies, you don't have output data. They are trained on just input data. That's the rough definition. And then the supervised learning guys are then further classified into regression and classification. Regression in the sense that if I were to predict, what you're predicting for your regression models is mainly values. It's a continuous set of values. So for instance, if we were to predict the house prices in Lambe, Ogun State, That's a regression model. Or perhaps predicting the house prices in California, that's a regression model. On the other hand, if you have to predict is the house more than X or Y threshold, houses that cost more than ₦1 million per month in Yaba, that's a 0 or 1. I mean, probably way more ones than zero, but ultimately it's a 0 or 1 problem. That's a classification model. It goes beyond 0 and 1s. You could have multi so what do we use? But basically it means you could have it's either you could have binary classification and multi-class classification. That's the word. So with multi-class, it could be 1, 0, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could have different. I think a common use case I worked on earlier this year was being able to predict agricultural producers based on their temperature, their relative humidity, their based on the things that you normally think would affect photosynthesis. Based on those things, you're able to predict if um, a farmer's crop is healthy, stagnant, thriving. I think we had about 5 different classes. So that's another classification model. As opposed to it being 0 and 1s, it could be multiple classifications. Now, the unsupervised ones are the more interesting ones, so to speak. And I think they're the ones we find more in mainstream artificial general intelligence. One of them is anomaly detection. So a good way to talk about anomaly detection is the model under the hood of your spam folder in your email address, in your emails. So whether you use Outlook or Gmail, I reckon you have spam folder, and you if you're working with this stereotypical example of a Nigerian prince reaching out to you, right? Normally, per the keywords in that email will almost always go to your spam folder. You feel me? Because there's an anomaly detection model under the hood of that. Clustering and recommender systems. Clustering systems, a good clustering system would be if I had a data set of people and their locations in terms of the longitude and latitude of where they've been in and around a given geographical location. Let's use the Earth as a whole, right? And I wanted to let's assume we're in 2020, in the peak of the pandemic, and I wanted to determine those that have been within 6 feet of each other. A good way to go about that would be clustering algorithm. Or let's say I'm trying to create a model that can that groups together buildings with similar energy profiles, buildings that consume electricity the same way. You agree with me that the way Cadbury's factory consumes electricity is not the same way an high-rise will consume electricity, and it's also not the same way I don't know, let's a nightclub. I think a nightclub is a good one. A nightclub will consume electricity. Now, being able to cluster buildings with similar energy profiles is something you can tend to do with clustering algorithms. Now, a handful of us here, we use YouTube, we use Twitter, we use Instagram, we use social media in general. And then I think Twitter is I like Twitter, so let's use Twitter. Twitter, you can open a Twitter account today, and then what you first of all see on your feed, on your timeline, would be a bunch of tweets that are just popular around you. However, at some point, you start finding your niche. Let's say you are a Formula One fan, you start liking tweets about Max Verstappen. Let's say you like K drama, you start liking Netflix post about the latest one out there. Or let's say you are a football fan, you start interacting more with what you call football Twitter. Soon enough, when you do that iteratively after a while, what you don't realize is you engaging those tweets, you liking those tweets, you reposting those tweets, you're creating a data set for a recommender system under the hood. Basically, that's what you're doing ultimately, yeah. And then what you just realize in your own end is, maybe after 2 months of using Twitter, I like the algorithm. It starts saying things like, I like this algorithm. It's like it knows who I am. Yeah, it does because it has been trained on your data sets. It's also similar to how perhaps you feel perhaps your uncle just gave you one money you didn't expect, and then you feel on top of the world, and you're like, let me look up what laptop prices are like, or let me look up what phone prices are like out there. You look it up, and yeah, okay, things are really expensive out there. You run to your friend, you get it going, and then you're on Instagram the next day, you're viewing stories, and next thing you're seeing is you're just seeing advertisements about people selling phones, people selling laptops. That's although there's a bit of a it's a bit controversial in the sense that is it ethical or not. However, all that wood of that is a recommender system. Now it's all enabled by everything I've explained now is all enabled by machine learning. Now, I love this Venn diagram. I really do, because this Venn diagram, a lot of people get really confused about AI, get confused about ML. Am I a data scientist? Am I a deep learning person? But then this diagram here does good justice to that. Now, artificial intelligence is a very big and broad field, right? And a subset of artificial intelligence is machine learning. Okay. Now, a subset of machine learning is then neural networks, and then a subset of neural network is deep learning. I think neural network is the one that might be a bit here and there to think about, but neural network is basically, it's a machine learning model that's designed on multiple neurons. Now, I don't know if the name neuron rings a bell, because I didn't like biology, so it probably wouldn't ring much of a bell to me or anyone else that doesn't like biology. But neurons are like, they're related to nerves, and it's also related to the way human beings think. Okay, ultimately, we think by a collection of closely knit, interconnected neurons. Ultimately, that's what we do. And I talked about classification earlier on. So this point here would be your ML model, being able to classify, okay, this guy come here, you come here. That's a classification model. Okay. Now let's get cracking with our exercise. I'll stop sharing my screen now. Okay. Give me a second, please. Let me just share a new screen. Just give me a second, please. Okay. I'm so sorry. What am I doing? Okay, guys. Good. Yeah, I think we're good to go now. So I don't think there's a better resource or a better place to source for information about Microsoft technologies as much as Microsoft Learn, to be honest. So in light of that, I'm walking us through 3 Microsoft Learn web pages just to talk about Azure AI free services. But before we do that, let me talk about Azure AI services in general and how cloud platforms work. So I reckon there are a couple of non-Nigerians. Yeah, I think. I'm sorry if you're a Nigerian. Name doesn't look Nigerian. However, I'm just going to talk a bit about how cloud services work in general and how Azure AI is a thing. So cloud services in general, they work under the principle of pay as you go. They pride themselves with that, pay as you go. It's similar to how I think Nigeria we're still in that transition phase yet, but I think we've made more people have made the transitions than just have not. But basically, it's similar to how our NEPA readings go. Okay, so let's see, and I'll show you that because let me just log into my portal here. Give me a second, please. But then let me just keep talking while I log in. It's similar to how perhaps I could be like at the start of this month, you know what? Let me get electricity worth of 100 kilowatt hours, right? And that's what I have here. I have 100 kilowatt hours. Now, based on the number of services I use or number of electrical appliances I use, it keeps going down. That's exactly the same way cloud services work. So you see here, it says my current credit is $146.46. That's my kilowatt hours using that analogy from earlier, right? So if perhaps I'm working with a washing machine, working with a freezer, working with a couple of hot plates, that's a hot plates, couple of pressing irons, you'd imagine that TV is also on. You'd imagine that the kilowatt hours goes down way faster. So before you know what's happening, I'm probably already on 50 from 100. You feel me? That's also how cloud services work. Now, if perhaps I go on vacation and I'm not home and there's no electrical appliance being used, I'll come back and I'll meet my 100 kilowatt hours. Similarly, if I don't use any service here on Microsoft Azure, I have it fixed. But then with me, for instance, I have a couple of domains or websites that are being these are actually my services. I have a language service, a translation service, an Azure OpenAI service, a computer vision service, speech service, just a couple of different services. There should be a web page somewhere down there that just they are working, they are up there. Like I'm using them. You can think of it as like me leaving the light on and going. You feel me? So and because the light is on, or because the TV is on for such a long time, it keeps going down. So that's exactly how cloud services work. Now, how does my explanation of cloud service and AI now, how do they come together? So here's what happens. If I wanted to build, like, oh, this is a good one. So I'm going to build a face ID recognition system. If I wanted to build that in reality, here's what I want to do. Let me just talk through the, if I had to draw a flow chart for that, you start from me getting data. In machine learning, in artificial intelligence, in deep learning, data is food. That's why I go to a lot of tech events and they say things like data is the new oil, because ultimately at the base of everything you're doing is data, right? So what I'll need to do, I'll to build this face AI service would be to get data. So then I'll start trying to get data of people's faces, probably create a Google form and beg people that, okay, guys, please, I'm trying to do X and Y for a project I'm really passionate about. Would you be kind enough to submit your face data? What do you mean, want my face? We have this whole little back and forth, and then people are not very receptive of that. Why do you want me? Why are you stressing me? And questions to that effect. Finally, I get data. Maybe not a lot of data, but I get data. Now, keep in mind that the more data you have, the better your model. So already, because I'm not getting as much data as I loved, I'm already disadvantaged, right? So finally, I get my data sets, and I get my data sets. Now, the data will be very unclean because perhaps when Temitope took his own picture, he took it facing the lights. And when Monsura took her own picture, she took it how do I put this? She took this back in the lights. Now I need to clean the data sets. Perhaps somebody took the picture and their face is on one side of the frame, but that person was kind enough to have it in the middle. I had to clean, I had to do all that data cleaning, and data cleaning can be really exhausting. Now, these are pictures. An average picture taken the okay camera will probably be somewhere around 2 to 3 megabytes large. Now, that's compute what's what I'm looking for. That has an effect in terms of the compute power I need. You have this all back and forth. Finally, I clear my data sets. I have a good data set. Now, remember I said a picture, let's assume our pictures, let's say we've also gotten them down to grayscale. So that will reduce the size immensely. Let's say we have a data set or a picture is now down to a couple of kilobytes. Now, reducing it also doesn't help in the grand scheme of things, because as you reduce the quality, you also reduce the amount of important details that you need. You're reducing that as well. You're taking that out, and then you keep taking it out because you're trying to think about, and it's a trade-off here because you're thinking about your GPU size. My laptop is probably, let's say you're using a good PC, probably have a 32 gig RAM PC, limited. Maybe you have a dedicated GPU or something. At some point, you get compute errors, and you're left. Okay, where do you go from here? Do I? It's a trade-off. You have this whole conversation. Now, after you then, let's say you get all the way through, you find a good balance point. You move forward. You have a model. You have to consider that because the people you have access to, as a Nigerian student, for instance, to myself, if I were to send a form to 50 people that were willing to help me take pictures of themselves, I'm willing to bet that at least 49 or 50 of them will be black people. Now, that's a bias in my model already. So what if that model is being used for a certain John Doe that's American? So now there's an issue with bias there. Now, in a bid to avoid the process I just gave now is extremely, seems like there's a lot of pitfalls there. So many things can go wrong. You could have bad data sets. You could have people not even giving you data sets. You could have a buttload of problems. Now, to avoid all of that, that's where Azure AI comes in. So the amazing data scientists and machine engineers at Microsoft, they've done all that, like all that stress I just explained. They've done all that. They've done all that. And because I've done all that, now as a person, you now get to use the service. That's exactly what it is. So you can use the variety of services on Azure. You have some services just on languages. So being able to translate from language to language, being able to transcribe from speech to text, text to speech. Text to speech is called his name is called, I forgot the name. But basically text to speech, speech to text, and then just some just on the images, being able to detect people in images, being able to detect faces in images, like we'll see later today. Just things in that entire space. These are services that all of them they exist within the Azure AI space, like a bottle of them. I really wish I could. I think I can actually do that. Yeah. Um, there's a bunch of services. Even, oh yeah, that's a good one. Azure also, because of the interesting or close-knit relationship between OpenAI and Microsoft, you could also harness the Azure services, the OpenAI services rather, through Microsoft Azure. Okay, I think I have a couple of them open here, app services as well. So computer vision services as well. Let me just try to, just so we can have a full sense of the services we can use with Microsoft. Yeah, this is a good one. I love this. We have a chunks of them. We have the Azure AI Foundry, the Azure Search for the cognitive search, Azure multi AI service multi-service, and normally the sector. I think I talked about spam. So the way this will work is it helps you identify potential problems early on. So before you even need to deal with that quote unquote stereotypical Nigerian prince, it deals with it for you. So before even like potential problems early on, it helps you identify it. Computer vision ultimately it gives a computer the ability to see. I think that's what computer vision means in general. It helps you also analyze content in images and videos. Custom vision is similar to computer vision, but then it's customized. It's for exact use case. So you're able to customize image recognition to fit your business, whatever your use case might be. For instance, that random person in Alaba market looking to integrate AI and automation services probably wants to be able to identify X and Y container by looking at the image. The use case is different from a person in the energy sector who's perhaps trying to know if AI can help, if AI's image ability or AI's custom vision ability can help them detect potential leaks in their pipeline network within Lagos. And Face API, which we'll be working with later today, helps you detect and identify people and emotions. So even being able to detect is this person happy will be based on it. I think as human beings we can. And as a matter of fact, this goes back to the definition I gave earlier on. If a human being or if a person can really detect people's emotions based on their countenance, we tend to say the person is emotionally intelligent. That's the word corporate uses these days. Now, similarly, AI can do that. And because we defined AI initially as being able to being able to a computer being able to do things we would normally think as intelligence for humans, as I would define AI as. In light of that, by extending the analogy to what I just talked about here with being able to detect emotions off of people's countenance, we then ascertain that that is AI as well. So the Face API can do that. And then language services, a lot of them. So just being able to build apps with language understanding capabilities. Language understanding it has a lot of subsets. It could be transcribing, translating, text. That's what I was looking for. Text to speech is called text sentences, whatever it is, and speech to text with translation. When your voice note comes in, I think Snapchat has a feature, Telegram as well. I'm not sure WhatsApp does. Being able to when that one friend that likes talking a lot or yaps a lot, when they send a voice note and then you can't listen at that point, but you want to, but perhaps you could read the text, being able to transcribe that voice note into text as well can be done with the language service. OpenAI, we all use ChatGPT. It needs no further introduction, to be honest. Speech is closely related to language services, but then it's more for like speech, also speaker recognition. I talked about recommender systems already. With Twitter being able to move with based on customers' behaviors and preferences. So that's something else under the recommendation systems. Now, you can also do conventional machine learning, the feature engineering. It gives you a what's it called? It gives you a studio, a workspace, so to speak, where you can drag and drop ML. And there are a lot of people consider, is that really ML? Is that really ML? Like, yeah, you can actually get the job done. Also have a video AI video indexers. So just being able to draw insights from videos, audio files. I think this is very applicable perhaps in sports. So if you could watch kind of a tape from an entire game and being able to draw insights from the game, perhaps what a player, a footballer or a basketballer, whatever sport it is, right? Their their its map, because you can draw because you can draw insights from the video using the Azure AI video indexer. So I could just talk about all this, but like we're running out of time, so let me just talk about the AI face service now. So it says here that the Azure AI face service provides AI algorithm that detects, recognize, analyze human faces in images, and the face recognition software is important in many scenarios such as identification, such as access control, automatic face blurring for privacy. You know those pictures where you have people and you don't want people to know their faces. Perhaps you have a picture of a cross section of a concert, but then you see their faces are blurred out. Or I think you find it more often in I don't in what's it called in media outlets. So when they publish a list of perhaps what's the word now suspects, because I mean people are yes, you're a suspect until proven guilty, you're innocent until proven guilty. So you have a couple of suspects and they've been arrested by the Nigerian police force, and then you see their pictures, and then you have them carrying like a mugshot style, but then their face is blurred out. So I think um that's a good what's the word now? That's a good use case. Now couple of example use cases. Yeah, this is a good one. Let's just talk about each of them, and then we'll talk about real life examples. In a bit to make this interactive, you could just have examples if you guys are okay with that. You could just give me use cases similar to this. So the first one is being able to verify against a trusted face. So the verification could be used to gain access to physical, digital or physical properties such as a bank account, access to the building, and so on. In most cases, the trusted face image could come from a government issued ID such as a passport or driver's license, and it could come from an enrollment photo taken by the person. During verification, liveness detection can play a critical clue. But basically, yeah, you can use the face ID to design applications that or websites even that that allow people come in. Basically, for instance, for students of University of Lagos here, we know that recently, one of the professors in the school, they had their vehicle stolen from the car park. And in light of that, we thought to ourselves, what if we had a face ID system? So this right here is a solution to that problem, such that if I can gain access to the car park, you must have been registered to the database, and he kind of like cross checks the database to say, okay, no, you should not be here. You do not have a car here, right? So that's a good use case. Also, liveness detection. Um, this in this sense, this is being able to it's an anti-spoofing feature that checks whether a user is physically present in front of the camera. So if perhaps let's say I was actually sharing my camera, let's say I was actually let's say I actually turn my screen on for this session or turn my camera on for this session, the liveness detection will use to know, am I actually here, or am I out of frame, or am I talking to someone else while I'm or looking at someone else while I'm in this session. Touchless access control. So we live in an era where you can use card, opting things like you can use PIN for apps to I'm so sorry, PIN to complete transactions and all that. But then you can also use your face and then face reduction, being able to blur detected faces, like I talked about earlier with the Nigerian police force. Example. Now, face recognition. Okay, use a lot of jargons, which we'll talk more. I think it's best we got this done with code. So I'll come back here. But before we do that, let's just walk a bit with a quick start. All right, so we can use C Sharp, we can use Java, Python, JavaScript. I'm more of a Python boy, so let's use Python. Let's go. Again, the prerequisites, I have an Azure account. I have a Python 3.11, I reckon. Okay, yeah, let's start with this. So we need to create a face resource. Okay, let's get the resource. Let's open this in your tab. Okay. At this junction, does anyone have a question? Let me pause for a minute or two. Perhaps is there anything I've mentioned that is a bit yeah and there that you like clarification on? Anyone at all? Anyone? Okay, I think Naomi, your ends are up. Can you unmute? Let me see. Yeah, I think she was unmute now.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to find out if you like share the recording of this class so that we can go over it again.
Now, am I there? You could also type on the chat box if you are not comfortable speaking.
Yes, I'm here.
Right now, you should be able to unmute. Okay, I think your mic is unmuted.
Sir?
Yeah, you raised your hands up. Do you have a question?
Yes, I said I would like to find out if you share the recording of the class because like I'm kind of like in transit now and I'm not paying rapt attention.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, for sure, for sure. This session is being recorded. Yeah, it is being recorded. That's confirmed there. It's being recorded. And after the session, I think I would for sure I'll share it. So all attendees, I think all attendees should get um automatic what's it called now? Automatic recording of the session. Recording of the session, yeah. So, and I also make a personal effort as well to upload on YouTube if I can. No promises on that, but if I can, I think I'll try. I'd like to do that. Yeah, thanks so much for that question. So let's get back to this. So when I opened this tab here, I came here, right? And I have an existing subscription. So you can think of it as me already paying for NEPA, okay, or whatever disco they could buy now, create a distribution content. And resource groups, you can think of resource group as like if perhaps I'm creating an application, I'm using multiple Azure AI services, I can group them all together such that when I'm done, I can delete everything together because you also don't want to, when you're done, you don't have existing services just running. So that's the good thing about resource groups. Be able to group similar resources together that helps you manage them in total. So if you're deleting them all together, if you are there's another word we use. If you're like say okay, you guys calm down a bit. So yeah. So you could select a new one, you could create a new one, or you could select, let's call this session by Salim. Let's go by sessions. Hopefully I'll create more ones somewhere down the line. And the rule of thumb with this region is you want to pick a region that's close to you. So currently I'm in Lagos, Nigeria, I think. So in light of that, there is normally a South African, yeah, South Africa Central should be the closest place geographically, if my geography serves me right. Now you have to give it a name. Let's call this space for ID. No, yeah, Azure for yeah, that's better. Azure for Face ID recognition. Oh man. On the pricing tier, apparently there's a free tier. So I mean, you could use the other one to support. I think I prefer the free tier better. I don't spend money. Now then you review and create. This takes a while. But ultimately, what this means is that it is being created at the data center in South Africa, not. Yep. Now I need to review it. Let's just review. It's a right subscription. It's a right resource group. The region, I like the region. It's the right name. It's a right pricing here. It's free. Network is good. Yeah, that's great, guys. And I will see on the top right corner it says initializing template deployment for it's just initializing the entire process. And then it says running. Let's just wait. Let's give it a couple of seconds. Now deployment is in progress. I think it's still in progress. Let's just give it a couple of minutes, seconds. Okay, yeah, I think we're good to go. So let's go to resource. Let's see what we have here. And let's come back here as well, because at some point we're going to need to use an API key. There's an API. The important thing from everything we've done here is just get an API key. That's the cocoa of everything we're doing here. So we could come all the way to resource management, key and endpoints. Now, I'll create a folder. Now this is my key. See how long it is. It's a list of it's a alphanumeric character. It's a combination of alphanumeric characters actually. So yeah, 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 yeah. Give me a second, please. Let me set up my my visual. But before we do that, let me create a new repository on GitHub. I think as a rule of thumb, I like to have the virtual the cloud version of my just give me a second, please. For Face ID. So let's have this and add a readme file to it. Okay, I have to choose the owner. Okay, let's go with that. And now I can then create, I think I should be logged in. Let me then clone a repo from GitHub. So this is me creating a local version of the repository. And then we find the repo I just created. Let me have it in my desktop so I can easily find it. And then we see on the left hand corner, then we open it up. So now we have it. Yeah. Yes, I trust my author. I think it's my favorite thing about Visual Studio Code, Azure, and GitHub. They're all four of them, all three of them. So like GitHub being a quote unquote sister company to Microsoft, everything is really, really the integration is seamless. Yeah, let's go back to our quick stats. Um yeah, I need to set my endpoints. So this is just me creating environment variables. It's just me creating environment variables. Talking about environment variables, I also need to create a virtual environment with just Python so um I can have my so sorry, give me a second, please. Let's so I can have my I reckon I'm not very sure, I've not done this in a while, but I think it's something like this. Python BNV. So just me creating a key. So we py3 BNV. Okay, and sorry, this I haven't done this in a while. Let's go. I think you Python. Okay, this is becoming interesting. Oh, maybe it's my command prompt instead. Python. Python was not found. BNV. Okay, Python 3. BNV. Okay, this should work. Okay, give me a second, please. It's in a virtual environment. On Python. Okay. Okay. Ideally. Oh, no, I don't think. Let me see how this works. Just give me a second, please. I need to set up a virtual environment, and That should have worked actually. I've not done this in a long time, to be fair. So that's probably an issue. I don't want to install. I just want to work. Just give me a second, please. Why is this not working? Python. Just type work. Okay. So my Python. I'm not sure how Python is stored here. And that might be a problem. But just to be sure, let's do this. Well, I'll still create an app.py file. So let me just do that now. And in the bit to also have my GitHub Copilot running here. So yeah, I don't think I have Python installed here. That makes sense. Print hello world. Hello world. Okay. So my bad actually. Give me a second. That really does change the looks from this session. However, just give me a second, please. Python up the py. Python 1. Okay, so clearly. I see. That's what the issue is. So I do not have Python installed locally here, which is quite surprising to me. I could have sworn I had it installed. However, nonetheless, I'll go on with the session. I'll try to have us navigate our way around it nonetheless. It won't be as hands-on as I would have loved in light of these new developments. However, nonetheless, we'll get it done. I'm just going to explain the code, what it does, and how much easier Azure AI does. We'll have about 8 minutes for us to wrap up the session. So I'll explain the code in like 4 or 5 minutes, and then leave a couple of minutes left for what's it called, for questions. So let's just go over it. So the first thing is, because Azure is a paid service, you do not want your what's it called, your there's a name I'm looking for. You do not want your API keys. You don't want them available publicly. You don't want anyone to just be able to use it. Because I mean, it's paid. It's like you have in the freezer. You're not gonna put it outside. Okay, everyone know it's for my own electricity. But because I like you guys so much, or because I'm not, you have it for everyone using. You don't want to do that. So in light of that, that's what we're doing here by creating an environment variable such that your personal computer knows the API key, just knows it in the memory, and that's why the first line of code here is print OS, and now it's print of it like it's import OS rather. So you're having access to the operating system of the PC such that the PC knows the environment variable, but then it's not visible. Only you and the PC both know is that okay, I've told you, and that's what this line of code there does. It helps you set that API key. You see, and you're setting the API key, and also you're setting the endpoint. Where's endpoint? I think the endpoint should be somewhere in. I saw the endpoint earlier on. You see, we have a key. So we even have two keys, which I also explain why, and then you have an endpoint. You have two keys because let's assume this AI face model is what is under the hood of access into a major building. Now you notice that somehow your key has been compromised. Someone has access to it. And in light of that, you want to change your keys. Now you could regenerate a new key. See, it says regenerate a new key. But then what happens when you regenerate a new key? Does that mean there will be a downtime? So in a bit to avoid downtime, that's why you have two keys. So just put in the second key, and then the second key is going to be what's what's making the application function. While that's going on, you then regenerate your first key and then you move on. So that's the point of having two keys. And you can also set your endpoint here. So now that you've created your environment variables, you can then go forward. Pip install. The way I think about pip install is similar to Python has some libraries, but then oftentimes when you want to work on something, the libraries that Python have by default are not enough. That's going to get from another library. That's going to import a library. And before you even import the library, you have to install the library first. We see here that we importing Azure key credentials from Azure.core. I mean, you're importing from somewhere like so the way but before you can even import these things are not part of the library. See, we're not people installing OS because OS is already there. So this is a good way to think about it. Think about the third-party libraries that Python has on its own as the books. Let's say I'm a student of the University of Nigeria. Think of it as the books that are already in the University of Nigeria, in the University of Nigeria's library. Think of it that way. Those are like the ones that Python have already. So whenever you need those, you just go to the library and then get them. That's import OS. Go to the library, get them, and then keep it moving. That's imports. Now, the ones that are not in the library, but perhaps there's another library somewhere outside the University of Nigeria that you can get it. First of all, people install it. That's you bring them, but then when you bring them, you can't take it to your house. That's first of all go to the library in the University of Nigeria, and that's what it means to pip install. After you've now pip installed it, you will then now go and borrow it from that library. As I mean importing. And then after you've done that, you would now this is OS. I talked about the OS being the OS being operating system, and then what you do with OS is nobody already sets the face API key as a variable, face underscore API key as a variable. You are then calling that variable now with the environ method, and then you're saving it under a variable called key. Do the same thing for endpoints, and now you can now work with it now. Like it's already here, it's already local here, and then now let's just walk through this code. I'm just going to copy this code to my Visual Studio code. Although my interpreter is doing me, just give me a second, please. Okay, guys. Just give me a second. Okay, let's just have this code here. Okay, let's work through this now. Let's bring this guy down. It's a lot of lines of code. But yeah, good. So now let's talk about importing it already. We've made sure our face ID works good. Now we need to create an authenticated face client ID. This is just us checking this endpoint talked about. Is it a valid thing? You feel me? And then you create that. I'm rushing through now because of our time. You define a woman friend, a man friend, a child friend in the images. Now let's just go through the images just so we are on the same page. Just demo images here. Let me just open this HTTP page here. Yeah, so we have an image already. So and we've defined this image under woman images, man images, child images. That's what we have in our man images. So you see the man. Let's see what we have in the child. Yeah, we have a son here, and I think there's a daughter. There has to be. Yeah, there's two sons. So we've defined all those, and then you add to command person, take a key attribute. We've defined URL, the images as the URL. You have a detection model that works under the hood, the recognition model, and everything between that space. I think I'm going to. I would what's the word now? I would make sure I'll send the link to the Microsoft Learn page to everyone that registered for the event after this event, and I'll also share the link afterwards. It's pretty easy to follow through with, and ultimately we then see a test image. So being able to test that, okay, after training, you want to be able to test that. You don't just want to trust the model, you have to test it just to have some accuracy, and then you have the image of every one of them, all four of them together, and it's able to say, okay, yeah, this is the son, this is the father, this is the mother, this is the daughter. I mean, a cute happy family on the beach. And then you can detect the images, you can recognize the images and everything in between, and that comes to the end of the quick stats. I'm super sorry that I realized that my interpreter was not fully installed. That was I totally apologize for that, to be honest. I was under the impression that I was up and running. I used it recently, to be honest. But yeah, I think with that we've come to the end of the session. I'd imagine that you have lots of questions, so let's start having them now. And thanks so much for staying all the way through to this point of the session as well. Any questions? Okay. So in the absence of any questions, I think we've come to the end of this session. Once again, thanks so much for joining and beating all the way through. Okay, I think our someone's hands up. Can we please? You can please let me give you rights to unmute yourself. I think I'll also stop sharing my screen now. Allow your microphone. You can go ahead and ask your question. Let me also share the links. It's pretty easy to follow through.
Oh, hi.
Hello,
Hi. Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Oh yeah. The question I want to have, I know you spoke about it earlier, but to be honest, I was kind of like dozing off because it's kind of like 5 a.m. where I am right now.
Cool.
So
Thanks so much for joining, nonetheless.
so what exact apart from like what exactly is the advantage of hosting of having the model on Azure? Why not just you keep it on your local machine? And also, is it are you the training and everything? Is it being done on Azure's end, or is done in your local machine? Or I think that's what I want to confirm.
All right then. So the different services in Azure, you could opt for a service such that you train it on Azure, or you could opt for like a quote unquote ready-made version, ready-made model. Now, the
Oh,
big advantage of the ready-made model, for instance, the Face ID one I use now is I've been able to, I mean, I didn't do that eventually, but the idea is you can easily build a face identity model using the Azure AI services in about an hour. You're good and you're up and running. If you were to do that traditionally by getting your data sets, cleaning your data sets, from a student's point of view, you probably learn more. From a get this done business point of view, you spend so much resource because now you're employing a machine engineer, a data scientist. You're going to use a lot of resource in terms of compute power and all that. So from a business, I just want to get this up and running with respect to my timeline point of view. With respect to that, now you probably want to opt for the Azure service. So it's more of a give or take thing.
oh,
There's an upside from a learning point of view. There's an upside to traditional machine learning and actually building it by yourself because you tend to learn more from that process. But then from a business point of view, which is why I think Microsoft pride themselves on being more business centric in that sense. From that business point of view, in terms of just having your solution and having customers happy, you tend to have the advantage. It's easy for you to build. They've done a lot of the work for you. You just have to work with the template that exists and write a bit of code and get it going.
mm, okay, okay.
I hope that
Thank you.
answers the question.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And once again, thank you so much for joining despite the time constraints. Super appreciate.
No problem. Thank you for
Any
taking
other
out the time.
questions? Uh, Okay. I reckon in absence of no other question, we might have come to the end of the session. I think I really wanted it to be a 1 hour session, like a quick 1 hour, because I understand the fact that it's close to the I mean it's during the holidays, not even close to the holidays, and there's a lot of festivity going on out there. So to everyone that's joined, thanks so much for joining. Wishing you all happy new year in advance, I guess. Thanks so much for joining. Enjoy the rest of your day.